Hello, and welcome to Method Gallery Online. My name is Paul D. McKee. Before we get started, let me just go through some thank yous and some acknowledgments that we like to take care of before our events. We at Method would like to acknowledge that we gather on indigenous ancestral land, the traditional territory of Coast Salish people, specifically of the Duwamish tribe, a people that are still here today. We wish to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage through this very small acknowledgement, and also through a yearly donation by the co-founders of Real Rent to the Duwamish tribe. If you'd like more information about Real Rent, you can visit real, R-E-A-L, rentduwamish.org, where you can find out more information or start paying your own rent to the tribe. For those of you unfamiliar, Method was started in 2013 by myself and Paula Stokes, along with emeritus co-founders Mary Koss and June Sekaguchi. We're a non-commercial, non-profit, artist-run gallery that is 100% volunteer-operated, including the co-founders. Our mission is to foster and exhibit sculpture and installation that regards process, material, and concept, all while engaging the gallery space. Method artists are never charged a fee to exhibit with us. Method is fiscally sponsored by Shunpike. Shunpike is the 501c3 nonprofit agency that provides independent arts groups in Washington State with the services, resources, and opportunities they need to forge their own paths in sustainable success. Without their support, Method would not be a possibility. We would also like to thank King County's cultural funding organization, For Culture, for helping in part to make our programming possible through a 2022 Sustained Support Grant. And lastly, we wish to thank the many patrons just like you watching that make this gallery possible. Without ongoing donations in any amount, we would not be able to continue. So thank you. If you'd like to make a donation, you can do so on our website or by sending us an email. Now, this is a little more unusual than how I normally do these because of a couple of factors, the main one being I am snowed in on the other side of the mountains. You'll notice that I have a digital background behind me, so I'm sure my hair and my ears are going crazy with it, trying to match up with it. But we were super fortunate to have Katie and Sarah's friend Russell Johnson took beautiful images of the show, so I'm using one of Russell's images for this talk. So thank you, Russell, for the beautiful work. So today, you are here to hear Paula Stokes, the other co-founder, as well as Katie and Sarah talk about their installation, Lost in Transmission. Now, Katie Hancock and Sarah Elizabeth Terry have been fantastic to work with, and we were super excited when they put this proposal together to show with us. It has translated so beautifully during kind of a dark time of year in Seattle when physically it's dark out. So it's been a really nice, bright show. And what I will tell you about the installation is Lost in Transmission is an illuminated, site-specific, and immersive display of neon, stainless steel, and graphics that illustrate a ground view of the function of transmission towers. This exhibit features portraits of these monuments that are so foreign to the landscape, yet in service of everyone as they silently carry the weight of our connection to the grid across vast distances. They've done some absolutely amazing things in here. The show hums a little bit too, which I found actually quite relaxing and kind of nice. And then just the deep colors of neon, which they'll talk about a little bit in their talk with Paula. It was just such an appropriate show for this time of year, and so we really appreciate them doing it. Let me give you a little bit about them together. Katie Hancock and Sarah Elizabeth Terry make up the Velvet Vector Collective. Pilchuck Glass School brought Hancock and Terry together 9 years ago, and they've been building neon and illuminated signs together at Seattle Lights Sign Company for the past 3 years. City Lights Sign Company for the past 3 years. Graduating with degrees in metals and sculpture, they have continued to investigate these materials in combination with optical illusions and illumination. Their professional work is in applying their trades to help small businesses across the Pacific Northwest bring their brand identities to life through consultation, design, fabrication, and installation. As sign technicians, the city became their gallery, inspiring this collaboration of artistic discovery. Each installation is made from salvaged sign components, that would have otherwise been disposed of, displaying the inherent reclaimed appearance of the materials available to them. They're interested in creating intricate patterns that playfully change the way light glows through these art objects. So following this is a lovely conversation with co-founder Paula Stokes and Katie and Sarah. We hope you enjoy it. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2022. And like I say over and over, if you can get your vaccine, please get it if you haven't yet. And if you need to get your boosters and they're available, please go get them. Protect yourself, keep your mask on, and one of these days this thing's going to be over. Until then, please take much joy in listening to this awesome conversation with Katie and Sarah and Paula Stokes. Thanks.
Okay, well, good afternoon. This is Paula calling in from Method Gallery, and we're going to have our artist talk today with Katie Hancock and Sarah Elizabeth Terry, who are calling in from their studio. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you for agreeing to do this talk, and also from myself and Paul, thank you so much for showing at Method. And I'm going to just kind of kick off just to learn a little bit more about you as individuals. I know a fair amount, but for our viewers who will be checking in, both of you are individual artists and have your own personal practices, but you also have formed a collaboration called Velvet Vector Collective. And I'm curious to know when that was established and what brought you two together, and just a little bit about that, just to begin with.
Okay. Well, we're both graduates in metal sculpture, and we first met at Pilchuck Glass School back in 2013, so many years ago. But for the past several years, we've been working across the street from each other on 49th Street, where we are here in Ballard. I have been a designer and fabricator at the Neon Sign Shop, the City Light Sign Company, and KT is a machinist and welder and master fabricator across the street at Spiral Arts, where she builds glass blowing equipment. And so it was just our proximity and our interest in mixed media patterns and lines that really brought us together, and where we started collaborating on different pieces.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, I think part of being an artist, especially one in any sort of proximity to the glassblowing community, it's really important to kind of band together. And I think that that's really where the collaboration came from, because I can't do what Sarah does and she can't do what I do. And, you know, it's, for me specifically, I get kind of wrapped up in my own head, and it's not the best. So I really like bouncing ideas off of other people. And
That's great. And I know I kind of prepared you with different questions. I'm not going to ask the questions in the order of how I wrote them, because it was kind of a free fall from how I was preparing for this talk, but it actually ties in exactly to, it's kind of a follow-up question to what we just were talking about. And it is to do with artist collaborations. And I, personally speaking, I have worked for other artists in helping them create their own work. But I think of the most powerful examples of mentors and artists in my own world was working for Flora Mace and Joy Kirkpatrick. And similarly, they both have very different skill sets that collab together, then they become something bigger than the sum of their total is bigger than the individual. And sort of like Joey Kirkpatrick is primarily a painter, and Flora Mace is a sculptor. And bringing those different skill sets together to execute a shared vision is really, really interesting, because it just becomes something completely different. It is very interesting to me, having worked with them over the years, and working and kind of being a fly in the wall as well, because as an assistant, a studio assistant, your job is to be kind of anonymous, and you just are the extra pair of hands, and you're kind of watching this creativity unfold. How does that work? How do you retain your autonomy as an individual artist, and how do you work through the process? Because I'm sure there might be times when you get stuck, or you might not agree with each other. And how do you manage that when you work together?
Oh, okay. So for this project in particular, it was a bit of a divide and conquer type scenario where we started with the design that was truly a collaborative effort. And then took that into the computer and put my design skills to work and came up with the concept that then KT was able to fabricate and execute in steel. And then also we had this shared vision, but it wasn't truly able to be realized until we were actually in the gallery, actually building this installation. And so the really difficult part was trying to incorporate the shared vision prior to the show and do on all of the production and the grindy part that it took to get there. And then we were able to, bring it all together. And once we were in the gallery space, actually building the towers and installing the neon, that's when we were able to say, oh, that's what you meant when you said we needed this one thing, or that's what you meant when you brought this up. So it was like this separate ideas, but then it kind of all came together for the show.
Yeah, it's very, very cohesive, and it's the product of that. I think just your preparation, and I'm so impressed with your professionalism, both of you, and just in terms of your skill sets, in all your areas, but just that kind of shared vision and that kind of working together for the bigger picture, and it really, you can tell because the installation is so successful. So I have to commend you on that very, very much. I'm hugely impressed. Let's see, other questions. I think, well, let's see, I'm just looking at my notes here. Well, let's talk about the concept for the show, because just so for people watching this, you both submitted an application probably about a year and a half ago. I can't even remember because of COVID. It was before you were even Holberg Fellows at Pilchuck. And to speak a little bit to that, for those who don't know about Pilchuck, Pilchuck Glass School is a 50-year-old entity that is located here in the Northwest. And it's a summer school, but also offers artists in residence programs. And you two were a group of professional artists who were selected to actually go on campus and work together. And it was pretty amazing. So I remember the original proposal. It wasn't fully fleshed out, and I was curious to know if or did COVID or the last year and a half change the direction of what your original concept was, and would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, I'll go. So COVID did a lot of different things. It really changed the direction of the show because all of a sudden we had new obstacles to contend with. We got the show opportunity before COVID was even a thing. And then COVID was very much a thing. And, it really helped to transform and shape the installation itself because all of a sudden now we have to consider the windows. We have to consider these socially distanced practices. And we also have to think about the digital representation of the work, which before COVID, you didn't have to consider that as much because you could just go see it. And now you can't. Yeah. Not really. I mean, you can, but it's so much more difficult during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And to speak a little bit more about the concept for those who maybe have not seen the exhibition, Lost in Transmission. So can you talk a little bit about what the inspiration is and how you realized it in your...
Want to talk about that?
Oh, so the idea of the transmission towers was first initiated as a concept in the midst of COVID. We were coming together with these ideas of incorporating these utilitarian objects that people don't really notice or pay attention to, even though we rely on them so much. So the idea that there's this line that intrinsically connects us all, these towers that make up a grid or a network that we rely on and is so vital to our daily way of life, and how to make things light up and glow. So this is just kind of an extension of that and kind of a tribute to those monuments that are in our landscape.
Definitely. When COVID hit, everything went digital, you know, and I personally didn't really think about how much my life shift within that digital realm until really thinking about this project and really thinking about these transmission towers and how they are used to like communicate to one another, and you know, thinking about neon and its purpose. It's a wayfinding material. It tells you where you are. It tells you like what landmarks are there, are often marked by neon. And so for me, it really just, it made sense. And you know, part of being an artist is trying to get your idea across, right? Trying to combine these shapes and these letters and create these worlds. And so we made physical and tangible something that's typically invisible.
Yeah. It's like they're like when I think of I love it. That's beautiful. Because when you think of transmission towers, to me they're like these big silent giants. You know, there's this kind of architectural. There's a book called The Lost Language of Cranes that I read when I was in my 20s, and it was a really sad story, but it was like this child who was kept in captivity and never learned any language, but out the window he would see these, it was near a shipyard, so you'd see the cranes, and then, you know, the way they would move and stuff like that. But I think the same of transmission towers. They're just, and then they're, even when you're out in the country and when you're close to them, and that static electricity, that sound that's there, which kind of, you know, leads me to the experience of sitting here in the gallery today, surrounded by this amazing light. And, you know, we chose your work for many reasons, because it was such a strong concept, and showing the work in the wintertime has been this fantastic revelation for people. Even if people can't come into the gallery, it's this really beautiful, bright, it's like everybody's very drawn to the exhibition for just that very reason. And just what you were saying, KT, about, you know, it's kind of markers, and it's, you know, there's just so many, it's just fantastic. Sorry, I'm rambling now. But I will go on to neon, because and this is the second, I'm obsessed by neon, just because of its use and its history and its commercial application, but how artists like yourselves and others, there's a great community of neon artists existing and working out of this region, and it's been here for decades and decades, but there seems to be this amazing kind of explosion of it being used and getting recognized, and I think it's just fantastic because it's a contemporary art form as well. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the neon that you used in the exhibition. Was it all recycled? Did you make specifically new neon? And talk a little bit about that, like repurposing and the use of that in your own work.
Sure. Well, one of the reasons why I think neon is so prominent in the Seattle area is because, particularly this time of year, it's so dark. I mean, it's dark at 8 in the morning, and it gets dark at 4 at night, and so it kind of like is this light that pierces through the fog and the rain, and it's a beacon that draws you in. This particular show is it's mostly salvaged from signs in the Seattle area. There are some artistic pieces, and there are some that were made by friends at Pilchuck Glass School, but the collection is mostly comprised of neon bits and pieces from a sign shop that closed down. My good friend and mentor and master fabricator of signs, Jamie Zaretsky, passed away in October, and he was the only one at the shop, Metro Sign. So Metro Sign then closed, and that's where I got a lot of these neon pieces. So I feel like it's kind of a sentimental value too. And if you look around the gallery, you might see something that you recognize, like the Mod Pizza or the arrow from the Low Woody's Burgers, Midnight Cookies, and there's letters from the Tavolata Italian restaurant, local Italian restaurant. So you kind of like get this sense that there's this vocabulary that we've all kind of have in our urban landscape, and it kind of brings it all together. And particularly with neon, the glass community it's a small world, But when you talk neon, it's an even smaller world. So we're all kind of aware of one another working with neon in the Seattle area. And I feel like as soon as one sign shop opens, someone else opens a neon sign shop in their garage or something. And like it's continuing this craft that's they've made neon the same way ever since neon was first invented. So it's very much a handmade technical skill.
Yeah. It's almost like this is like an homage to Seattle, you know. I mean, also it's to your mentor, you know, it's kind of encapsulated here. But I love that, like that kind of shorthand, because they're markers within our city, and it's a language that, you know, we're like, oh, and everything is changing all the time here, and
Right.
for, just in terms of development, and then these landmarks disappear, and so it's something really, it's like a little time capsule. It's really beautiful, a beautiful idea. Um, Let me see. Okay.
Do you want to add anything about that, neon?
If there's time.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. Go for gold.
Yeah, awesome. So I think it's also really important to bring up the kind of the green or lack thereof aspect of glass as well. And so for me personally, it's really important to reuse and recycle as much of that glass as possible. Neon is unique in its way of being fabricated because there are these noble gases that require it to light. And there's also sometimes mercury that's also needed to cause it to light, depending on the color you want. And so for me, I really wanted to make something as sustainable as possible. So reusing this neon that we already acquired seemed really significant. And I would also like to bring up, this is not neon related, but segueing into the sustainability of this particular installation, the towers that were fabricated, the scrap was only about 6 inches because, yeah, so that was really important for me as well, is to like really get the most out of the material and really like use it to make something and be a little bit less wasteful of a fabricator and less wasteful of an artist.
That's really great. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see. Do you have, so obviously the exhibition is going to come down. Do you have a fantasy about where you'd love to see it recreated or adapted? Do you have like a wish list that we can throw out there that people might know of that might be able to help you connect? Do you have an idea for its reuse, or do you have plans for it, or is it all still up in the air?
Well, our initial proposal for the transmission towers was sent to the Bellevue Arts Museum, but I don't think it quite fit the theme of the show, which was more architectural. And now that we've actually seen it executed, it would be amazing to kind of see it travel and evolve a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to make more.
Yeah.
Not right now. Not right now. But I do want to make more and like really make that field of towers and really like add more neon. Like I just want more.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to maybe just put one up right outside of Seattle City Light, you know? So that's what our mutual boss, Martha Davis, suggested when she saw the show. She was like, oh, you should send photos to Seattle City Light. They should pay for it.
I think that's great. Well, I could definitely see it in a public art context as well. I do hope that the experience of being able to execute it and having the space in which to do it here as it's very beneficial to you. I just know that is kind of one of our one of the most important missions of what we do here is to create that kind of incubator space where artists can experiment but actually also execute and realize their vision in a space that's supportive. And you're not constrained by commercialism or having to make something that needs to be sold. And but then having the proof's in the pudding, and then you've got this fantastic photography that you can hopefully use then, and the experience of working together and executing this into other projects. And that's been some of the success stories that we've had here with other artists who've shown, and it's kind of been a stepping stone in their own careers. So So I'm trying to see if I have anything else. I mean, is there anything else you'd like to add, that you'd like to share, that I haven't touched on? I know there's probably loads of things you'd like to talk about, but I'm just being conscious of your time and stuff like that as well. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, thank you for letting us show. And I did want to talk a little bit about this method opportunity being the first true opportunity we've had to really showcase a blending of our combined specialties, if you will. So our previous collaborative work, we never successfully incorporated my fabrication skills because it didn't seem appropriate. It didn't, maybe the space wasn't there. But this, we had space, we had room, we could actually build something massive, because that's my new favorite thing, is to make something that is huge because it's fun and it's hard and I'm a masochist. So yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a mini version of something even bigger, the towers. But Method definitely gave us this space and the time to work through these ideas and to bring something real out of it. So thank you. Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate it, and as Paul has said, you know, your activation of the space with the consideration of how you use the windows with the decals. I mean, it's just phenomenal. I mean, it's one of the most. I say this every time, but this is one of the most successful shows we've ever had. You know, and just thrilled to be part of your journey. We're really looking forward to seeing what's next up your sleeves. So so with that, I think I'll just say thank you both, and really appreciate your time, and wish you all continued success. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Paula.
Thanks.
Okay.